coming. I'm going to turn it over to Vicki Kerber and let her take it from there.
Good afternoon. Thank you guys so much for coming after school. And because we have our special guests, some of them have a specific time to leave, I'm going to cut right to the chase. I'm Vicki Kerber, your Monroe County coroner, and it came to me several months back with Erica Sunday about trying to get education into the schools on what's going on, not only nationwide and in St. Louis area, but here in Monroe County. And I'm here to tell you that it is here in Monroe County. Heroin, the prescription illicit drugs, we got it. And our special guest today will be able to tell you the facts that you need to know as teachers as well as parents, what to look for, and they're going to educate, and don't be afraid to ask them questions because they will tell you the honest answers. So I do want to wish to thank our panel. It is Chad, raise your hand, and Courtney. And we have special guests also, Mr. and Mrs. Duran, who have lost their son a year ago to heroin. So, and their special guest, Amber? Yeah, okay. And thanks to Kelly Lurch and also to Miss Jen Meckler, who had heard us at the high school for helping us to get this together. I will tell you that if you know the teachers in Valmeyer, I've already been in touch there, and I'm working my way into Columbia High School and junior high also. So I want to cover Monroe County so the teachers do know. So without further ado, I'll give you Chad. Okay.
I'll give you Chad. I'll take him.
My name is Chad Sabora. Usually when we do these talks, what I try to focus on, even though I'm in recovery, is history of heroin, where it came from, how it all started with morphine back in the Civil War, up until we are today. I'm going to put my story in there a little bit, but that's basically, Courtney's going to basically tell the recovery story more than me. My main purpose is education. Just so everybody knows, I told this earlier too, I'm an addict. I was a junkie for about 17 years. Not only was I a heroin addict, I was also an Ivy League educated attorney. My father built one of the biggest rehabs in the country, and that didn't spare me from suffering from this disease, because that's what everything is. Alcoholism, cocaine, anything you name, heroin, it's all a disease, plain and simple. 40 million people in America suffer from it. I just have to be one. It doesn't discriminate. Didn't care how much money I came from. Didn't care who my dad was. Didn't care how educated I was. Sick. A lot of people are sick out there. It's one of the main messages we try to get across too, is not to vilify the drug addict. We have to separate the person from the disease, which is almost impossible to do unless you've been there. But it is possible because they're sick and they need help. And that's one of the main focuses we try to teach, is that there is help available. But you have to kind of understand this as best you can. What we call everyone in this room is normies. Plain and simple. We live in a different world. We always have. We always will. Drug addicts. We see things differently. We act differently. We have emotions that are different. And I can understand an addict better than anybody. From the outsider's perspective, it's going to seem like insanity. Why don't you just get it? You're evil. You're bad. None of that is true. So any preconceived notions that we were all raised with about what a junkie is, about that guy in an alley with a needle in his arm, lose it. It's not the truth anymore. Kids in high school in the bathrooms. I was in rehab 6 times, I think? Yeah, 6 times. And I wasn't the only highly educated heroin addict there. Fortune 500 CEOs. This is back when I had insurance. I could go to a nice rehab. And my last rehab was a bucket in a bathroom. The doctors, I mean, they're everywhere, plain and simple. Especially for opiates right now. Last stats are when I mean opiates, I mean prescription painkillers, heroin, morphine, the whole shebang. Current stats are every 19 minutes somebody in America dies from an opiate overdose. 40,000 people died last year from prescription painkiller overdoses and heroin overdoses. 40,000. Last year, 15,000 people died from car accidents. So, double the amount of accidental deaths happen in America from opiates and heroin. Now this gets in the paper because I see usage just like heroin epidemic, pill mills, all this stuff, but it's not getting the attention it deserves. And this is just my personal feelings. One of the reasons it doesn't get the attention it deserves is because we're looked at as drug addicts. Quick little side note, there's this law called prescription monitoring. Every single state in America has prescription monitoring, including Illinois. Missouri doesn't. That's why we have so many pill mills in Missouri. That's why your southern Illinois is flooded with pain pills because what prescription monitoring does is doctors get a DA license when they graduate from that school, get their little prescription pad, and that DA license is put into a computer system, and then all the prescriptions can be tracked and monitored. So basically in Missouri, you can go to one doctor, go to one pharmacy, go to another doctor, go to another pharmacy, basically load up in any phone on the streets. And this is just an example of the stigmatism that is still attached. Last year, when it was being voted on the Senate floor in Missouri, one of my favorite men in the world, who's my new best friend, Senator Rob Schaaf, of St. Joseph, Missouri, filibustered the vote. And during his argument, his 8-hour speech, he made the statement that if a drug addict dies, all it does is clean up the gene pool. So that is still what we are dealing with today, 2012. And people are still looking at the opiate heroin act as evil. They don't deserve it. Now, it's not just your kids, and that's just your people my age that knew what they were doing and went on a run and did horrible things. Grandma who has dementia may have forgotten she took a pain pill. Takes another one, she dies. We got 13-year-old kids in high school. We had a memorial 3 weeks ago for a 15-year-old kid out in House Springs that died. So, like I said, that stigmatism of the dirty guy and junkies isn't it anymore. Okay, I jump around a lot too, so you're going to have to bear with me. Heroin was basically created in 1890s by the Bear Corporation. The reason they created heroin was to treat morphine addiction, because all the Civil War soldiers were shooting up morphine because of all the pain from injuries. So, really great idea by Bear on my account. Created the most deadly drug known to man to treat, morphine, which isn't that bad. So that's pretty much how it all got started. It was available in grocery stores, pharmacies back in that day until the Harrison Narcotics Act in the 20s, which made all narcotics illegal. Not that big of a drug problem, through that time. It was kind of isolated to the slums, the ghettos, the stigma that we have now. In 1947, right at the end of World War II, is when there are certain treatments for heroin addiction, and I'm going to those, starting with the first one, which came out in 1947. Methadone, which everyone is probably pretty familiar with. Methadone was actually created by Axis of Evil, Hitler, because when they were in France, when German occupied France, they set up all their labs there. When the Allies landed and they came in and started shutting down the labs, all of the SS soldiers were getting dope sick because they were on a lot of heavy morphine and different pills to deal with the injuries. Oh, a lot of war caused this shit. Sorry, I swear. So when U.S. invaded and came in and started taking France back, all these labs got shut down. His soldiers were sick and went to his doctors. I need a drug to kind of take care of my soldiers. So what they came up with was methadone. Methadone is worse than heroin, plain and simple. Just so you understand, all drugs have a half-life, which means once you put them in your body, they start dying. Advil, time, all of them have it. Methadone lasts 3 times as long in your body as heroin. It actually gets into your bones. It has been around. Eli Lilly, when the war was over in '47, bought the patent and started putting it on the streets to treat heroin addiction. It's called MMT, methadone maintenance treatment. Basically, you go to the clinic every morning. It's an orange liquid now. You take a shot, and you're good for the day because the half-life is so long. You don't have to chew dope 10 times a day like we do. But it's highly addictive. Actually, it's a shame, but actually people on welfare, because it's such a cheap drug to make, that doctors right now are prescribing methadone to people on welfare. They can't afford other prescription painkillers. And I've been on methadone before, and getting off methadone is harder than getting off heroin. It is probably the hardest drug known to man to get off. So that came around in the 40s, and then it's been around for a while. And the heroin really didn't make a really huge explosion in America until the 70s. Punk rock scene, UK, that's when heroin really started getting through. And then you also, if you've seen that movie with Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe, what's the name of it? Anybody remember the name of that movie? Thank you, Frank Lucas. Again, it's another war, Vietnam War. So they started shipping in heroin from Vietnam. And that's when we saw this big explosion of heroin. Methadone clinics popping up everywhere. Around this time in the UK, they came up with a secondary treatment to treat heroin addiction. It's called Suboxone, which we now have in the United States. We've had it since like 2003. It was actually available in the UK in the 70s. This is a little pill that you put under your tongue. It melts. What is in this pill? It is 75%. If you have any questions, please stop and ask. Because like I said, I go everywhere. It's 75% this drug called buprenorphine, which is a very, very, very strong opiate, but it doesn't really get high. And then it's 25% this other drug called naltrexone, which is an opiate blocker. This is what happens when you do heroin or any opiates. You have something called opiate receptors in your brain. And then you shoot the drug, you take a pill, whatever, it floods your brain. And then heroin, all opiates are a central nervous depressant. So what happens when those opiate receptors are filled, your brain tells your body to slow down your breathing. Everyone has seen the movies and they know the typical heroin look, when you're constantly falling in and out of sleep because you're nodding out. That's because your breathing has been slowed down and you're falling in and out of consciousness. That's how overdoses happen, because you get too much opiates in your brain receptors. It actually just tells your body, okay, stop breathing completely. Actually, interesting side note, not really interesting, just science. Alcohol actually attaches to opiate receptors too. So one of the ways you can tell if someone's on dope, is because they're going to have that slurred speech. If you know how you talk after like 1 or 2 martinis and you're not blasted yet, but you're still kind of buzzed and you start slurring, that's what you sound like when you're on dope. Also the nodding out, scratching, obvious track marks, abscesses, losing weight, always being hot, sweating. Suboxone in the 70s. Okay, what this drug does is basically kills withdrawals, and then naltrexone is an opiate blocker, it stops you from getting high. We have a new drug, which is naltrexone, that I'll get to. But that's why for a heroin addict, it's very dangerous to drink. A lot of people think, and this is a lie we tell ourselves as we suffer from this disease, is that I was just a heroin addict, I can drink, I can smoke pot, I can smoke pots or Xannies. No, because all those little drugs, impact the same receptors, so your body thinks it's getting heroin again. I'm going to go to the disease a little bit right now. Okay, in the 50s, the medical, you guys are all familiar with AA and Dr. Bill and Dr. Bob and all those guys. It was Bill and Dr. Bob. They had a doctor's opinion come out in 1934, which basically was the first time the doctor stated that alcoholism is a disease. Then in the 50s, the American Medical Association came out and went to full agreement. And the disease criteria is it has to be primary, it's not caused by anything else. It's progressive, it constantly gets worse, it's incurable, and it's fatal. And any disease fits those criteria, and addiction fits that disease because nothing causes my addiction. What happens is that I'm allergic to opiates. I put an opiate in my body of any kind, and what happens is my brain gets hijacked. It's very scary once it happens because you lose all self-control. It doesn't happen after, the first pill, first prescription. Eventually, though, my brain's gonna lose it, and I get focused on it. But it's progressive; it gets worse over time. I've been sober a long time, but that disease inside me is doing push-ups right now. So if I pick up any drug within a couple days, within a week, I will be right back to where I was, a year and a half ago. Same amount, same place. It just gets stronger, like. It's incurable. It cannot be cured. I will always be a drug addict. I don't pick up today, but I'm always an addict. And it's fatal. If it's not treated, it will kill you. Plain and simple. And there's treatment available. What was I? Suboxone. That's one of the main things that I like to talk about is the disease. So people understand the kids are sick. 80 years ago, it was 80 years ago, if I came out and said I'm an alcoholic, I can't drink, society kind of looked at me like I was a piece of shit. Today, it's okay. You guys know friends. Everyone probably knows here someone that says I'm an alcoholic, I can't drink. You guys are okay with it. You understand it. I go to a bar or I go to somewhere and somebody says, hey, Jay, you want to drink? You want this? No, I can't. I'm a heroin addict. I'm looking at like this shit junkie. Plain and simple. And that's not right. Because whatever drug I pick up, alcoholics are allergic to alcohol. Marijuana addicts are allergic to marijuana. I was in rehab with a man that was addicted to natural gas. Another man was addicted to Listerine. It is an allergy and whatever. My problem is me. It's the way I was my brain and my body was all put together, very, very long time ago. So whatever, the secondary thing is whatever substance I pick up. Alcohol, heroin, doesn't matter what it is. So it's like you get judged so harshly because that was my allergy. Just to get into my story just for a second, is that I partied when I was in, young high school, junior high. That's kind of nuts. But, I done heroin when I was 18. I done every drug in the world by the time I was 18, but I kind of stopped. I was able to kind of just function. And then between the age of 28 and 30, I lost both my parents to cancer. My father passed with leukemia. About a year and a half later, my mom passed with lung cancer. I was seeing a psychiatrist at this time, and he was my first and my best drug dealer. And what he did to treat my depression and grief and some other things I was going through was, and I knew what I was doing because it's called doctor shopping and manipulation, which I'm very good at. He would write me prescriptions for whatever I wanted. So pain pills, pain pills, pain pills. So, that is how I got started with what happened to a complete downfall. That's how a lot of these kids are getting started. Because it's progressive. I started off with a script for 30 budget that lasted me a month. 30 don't last me a month. Now they last me a day. But, that's how it starts. One prescription, then two, then three. And then I lose control. I keep on feeding more and more and more. Eventually the pain pills aren't cutting it. You got pain pills in your school, quite simple. I know it. They're going for $5 a pill, Vicodin. $8 a pill for Norco, which is stronger Vicodin. And then you get something to Oxycontin. Oxycontin starts out at 5 milligrams. You guys know what Oxycontin is? Okay, it starts out at 5 milligrams, goes up to 160 milligrams. Those go for $1 a pill. So we're talking 160. So if I have a prescription for 90, 160 milligrams of Oxycontin, that's a lot of money. And that's what's happening right now. And, the high from Oxycontin and some of these pain pills are very, very similar to heroin. And, the curiosity will get us, and once we put that pill in our body, we get that feeling, well, I know what heroin's like. Everyone's young enough to remember what it was like to be 16 and 17 and completely fearless. The kids see it in the news today, this person died, that person died. I kind of saw that in the 90s when I was in high school and growing up. The car accidents from drinking, all the people dying from the bad ex. Did that stop me 1 second? Did that stop any of us when we were 16? No. So fear doesn't work, education does. Now we get to the 70s and 80s, kind of like cocaine took over, heroin kind of took a backseat again to coke. You've all seen Traffic and Blow and, the club scene and Miami Vice and all that stuff in the 80s. But then, what a shock, another war. Gulf War, first Gulf War. I don't care what the papers say. If you are somewhat educated on what the papers are telling you about the snortable heroin, the smokable heroin, how it's been around for about 5-6 years, it's a lie. It came out after the Gulf War, about 1992, 1993. No coincidence, I'm not making any judgments, I know who's bringing the drugs in, but the first time I snorted heroin was in 1994. So it's been around since about that. Probably a year or two before that is when it kind of started flooding the streets. A lot of the stuff was brought in to fund wars in major cities like Chicago, New York, and LA. So there was a huge, huge explosion of heroin in the 90s. If anybody remembers reading about stuff up in Chicago. That's where I'm from, Chicago. I've been here a couple of years now. And then it almost died down a little bit, late 90s, early 2000s. And then comes what we're dealing with now, which is, I think it's referred to as Generation RX, Generation Prescription, and now it's out of control. Facts, 99% of every single Vicodin that is produced for the world is consumed by Americans. Overprescribing is just, that's what we do. We have a little bit of a pain, we get a script for 30 Vicodin. That's a staggering number, that's odd. For Oxycontin, which was, I watched my mother die of lung cancer. I took care of her to the minute, second she passed. So I saw the pain from cancer. That's why Oxycontin, those drugs were designed and created specifically for terminal cancer patients. And the United States consumes 78% of all the Oxycontin produced for the world. Sorry, and with the overprescription and the pill milk, that is where we are at today. I know, I'm not going to say raise hands, but I know, a lot of us have, had a script for Vicodin, right? Taking 1 or 2 extra just because it felt really good. That's what's happening to the kids. Plain and simple. And, we don't have certain things that we need, to protect. We don't have the right information out there. We don't have the education. It's kind of why we're doing this today. And, you know, the biggest thing is to know what's going on and know who to turn to. When it comes to dealing with a heroin addict, you know, I'm going to use a little talk from a program I'm involved in. The therapeutic value of one addict helping another is about parallel. You know, a lot of this stuff is, you know, even for school counselors and health professionals that are really educated, it's still out of your league. Plain and simple, because you're not going to understand what they are going through. As much as you want to, you can't. That's why there's people like me, people like Courtney. We get it. We can talk to them at their level. You know, I went from, within a year, I went from a $1 million house to a homeless shelter. You know, I mean, I've been there. I've been, every bad thing you can do as a drug addict, I've done. You know, I mean, I don't go into story for a lesson like this, but, you know, I have done it all. You know, and there is treatment available. Illinois, you suck, because Quinn cut like about $52 million last year from the budget. There is no state beds available. Going back for history lesson, really amazing U.S. senator named Hughes in the 70s created the Hughes Act, which basically created what's called parity with mental and physical health issues. That means that they have to treat mental problems the same way they treat physical problems, which means mandatory treatment. Okay, Reagan destroyed that in the 80s. That's why you had all the homeless people on the streets. If I'm losing anybody, or if I'm messing up some of my staff, please ask me. We had an influx of homeless people on the streets in the 80s. Then, you know, managed healthcare comes in and destroys things even more. What we have happening now, which is good, not going political here, but Obamacare will be passed in 2014, and somehow they managed to slip the Hughes Act into Obamacare. So in 2014, treatment will be available based on, you know, granted it's a 2000, you know, piece of legislation, but it is in there. You know, but, you know, we still have 2 more years, and we don't even know how that's going to happen. You know, there's options available. Luckily, you know, who you're working with and who you're going to be interacting with, whether it be on the junior high level or the high school level, almost all of these kids are on the parents' insurance, and there's help available. There's adolescent programs. Gateway has them in Carbondale, and they have an inpatient facility.
Springfield?
Yeah, Carbondale's a little closer.
Yeah, but
There's adolescent treatments available. You know, I work for a non-for-profit that I started with a few people, and, you know, in order to constantly try to destroy that stigma, one of our main motto is be part of the solution. This pamphlet's up there, but our other motto is it's by addicts for addicts, because, you know, we know how to take care of our own. You know, plain and simple. That's what we're trying to do now. Talking here, you know, work I do out on the streets in St. Louis, getting people into treatment and getting them help. But there are referrals available. There's new treatment available. I talked about that 25% of that pill called Suboxone is that drug called naltrexone. That is the opioid blocker. But it basically does, I'm going to use a football analogy, it puts up blockers in front of your opioid receptors. When you shoot dope, you can't get there. It's a shot now. They actually, going back to the alcoholism story, they actually created this shot for alcoholics. So it's called Vivitrol. You take the shot, it lasts for a month, and you can't get high. Can't get drunk either if you're an alcoholic. You know, it's a lifesaver, and it's new. And it's available, you know, I will tell you right now, I have been addicted to every drug known to man. Plain and simple. And well, the exceptions of tobacco, nicotine, heroin is the hardest thing to get. That drug, you know, I could put coke, LSD, I mean, I could just walk away from all of them. But heroin has such a grasp on your soul, more than any of the drug I've ever known. The first 6 months are impossible. They're so hard. Because this is what we have inside us. All the old Native American stories, there's 2 wolves inside you. Whichever one you feed is going to win. If I get that thought about getting high into my head, it's a flickering thought, and I still get into this day. And if I feed that thought, it turns into this obsession that's like a roaring fire. It consumes me. Okay, there was, you know, I remember when I was in Chicago, out of my first rehab, I had been arrested for possession. My mugshot was on the front page of the Chicago Tribune. You know, Cook County prosecutor, I was a prosecuting attorney too when all this went down. Cook County prosecutor arrested for heroin possession. My fiance left me. My house was going into foreclosure. I still had enough insurance. That was every reason for me to stop getting high, right? Now, it took me 4 more years to stop getting high because that obsession is so great that it overtakes you. And you know, people, that's why normies look at it judgmentally. Why can't you stop? Why can't you stop? We can't. We can't. We need, you know, that's why I'm a big fan of treatment, because it gives you as much time as you need to stay there to get your head out of your ass. You know, plain and simple. Because I mean, the first 6, you know, people come to me and say, man, I've got 3 months clean. Things still suck. And I say, you're not clean, you're abstinent. You know, plain and simple. Cleanliness comes later. Being clean from drugs, you know. Another thing that happens to heroin addicts, am I losing anybody at all? Okay. There's a medical term called PAWS, post-acute withdrawal syndrome, symptoms. I forget what the actual word. Either one works, so we'll go with what's like. Basically, we are still in withdrawals for anywhere from 3 months to a year after we get quit. It manifests itself in insomnia. I still have restless leg syndrome to this day. Plain and simple. It takes a while. Because what happens when you become a drug addict, specifically heroin, and I know about them all, but I'll talk about this, is that, you know, everyone knows, neural pathways in the brain fire regular body. Heroin reprograms your brain, creates all new neural pathways. Everything in your life after you've been doped long enough is determined by those new neural pathways that have been created. So just like you're hungry, right? Brain senses you're hungry, sends a neural pathway, so you're quick right away within a second. Oh, time to eat. I mean, that's natural to you, right? Everyone knows that feeling. That's what happens to a heroin addict. We get sad, we get lonely, we get scared, we get tired. Our brains are programmed to tell us when things happen. The first thing that those neural pathways send to our body is, go stick a friggin' needle in her. So just like you get that thought to eat because you're hungry, anything we feel, whether it be good or bad, our brain is programmed to tell us, you go get high. And that is something that takes us, down these horrible paths. And it takes 6 months, a year to reprogram our brain. There's some medical assisted therapy, some psychotropic drugs, some, I'm not a fan of, I suffer from spiritual diseases, no time ago that have helped me. I'm not a fan of any of these things, but they do help. But we have to get heavily involved in meditation, exercise. It's the only way to get our brain firing again. But it's possible. Anybody can recover from heroin addiction. Anybody.
Jan, would you explain how the pills are getting on the street? Like you alluded to pill mills, but we need to know the management clinics.
Your chiropractic doctors and your pain management clinics are fronts. What happens is a chiropractor who doesn't really go to medical chiropractic school. Yeah. They open up a clinic. They take an old doctor that's maybe like 60, that's retired, and they offer him a shitload of money to write prescriptions. You go to one of these pill mills, and they're all over the place, everywhere. You get an MRI, and then you look at the MRI, and you give them $500, and the doctor writes you a script for everything. It's a big problem in Missouri, and there's one county in Florida that opted out of prescription monitoring somehow. So you've got huge pill mills working out of Florida, called the Oxycontin Highway down in Florida, and in Missouri. So basically what happens is, like I said, I go to one doctor, I go to 2 doctors, I go to 3 doctors. By the end of the day, I'll have 1,000 pills on me, and those are going on the streets. And since you're so close to Missouri, it's not through. Another thing we have, is that good question? Okay.
That's okay.
I was just making sure. I'll get the prescription at night if I get it. To move it quick, I'll sell it for $150 if I get the money. That person's going to start selling them pill by pill. This works just like pot. You get a pound of weed, you break it down. You either sell it bulk or you sell it slow, but everywhere. Courtney will tell you, selling pills in the bathrooms are water high. There's 2 laws in Illinois that I want you to know that exist, just so you know, and if you know anybody that should know these. The first one is called the 9/11 Good Samaritan Law. You guys are all familiar with what happened to Bon Jovi's daughter recently? Everybody? She was in college in New York, overdosed on heroin, and they were able to call for help. What the Good 9 Samaritan Law does is it grants limited immunity from arrest and prosecution to somebody that calls for help when somebody overdoses. In Illinois, I helped write the law. It's like 4 grams or less. I read it, 4 grams or less of heroin. Every drug is in there. So, someone is in trouble and they call for help. They're not going to arrest you. You also have Narcan. Narcan is an opiate reversal drug. When you overdose and you give somebody a shot of Narcan, it knocks those opiate chemicals out of the brain and it pulls them out of their overdose. You go into immediate withdrawals because they usually give you too much, but all those things are available along the way. The things we don't have in reserve. You guys have any questions?
I think you covered it all.
You've been out for a year and a half or whatever. What's residual? What do you still feel outside of that you still want to, you still have the craving?
No. See, what happens is that obsession, eventually, that obsession, I mean, I had that obsession for a very long time. It dwindles its way down to a desire, and then it kind of just, as long as you don't feed it, it goes away. It's still there. You know, like I said, I suffered from this disease. I could get out of normal. I have to do, you know, I won't say which one because there's a camera here. And I'm just worried about anonymity, but I do go to the 12-step program of recovery. And, you know, that's the only thing that I know that works because I've tried everything else. Almost everybody I know that tried another way, I buried. So, you know, I get it every day. I get up in the morning and I have a choice. I can do something for my recovery for my next relapse. So today I choose to do something for my recovery so I don't die enough. Yes?
You spoke about how pills have kind of gotten here, but can you speak to the pathways of how heroin specifically has become big here, and then also why kids are switching from pills to heroin?
Sure. Eventually the pills are going to cost too much money. $5 a pill. At one point I was taking 50 Vicodin a day, do the math. Heroin's 10 bucks a bean. A bean is a little capsule full of heroin that you break off and you just don't shoot or smoke. Eventually, like for me, the pills just don't do it anymore. You know, I could take 20, there's not enough Vicodin in the world anymore to get me high. Plain and simple, even today. I remember I had a surgery a couple months ago, and I'm like, do you want some Vicodin? I'm like, why? You know, it's not going to do anything. I don't even put that crap in my body anymore. So that's one way. And then the pills run out. Your guy's out. You're dope sick. Coming off pain pills is just like coming off heroin. It sucks. It's hell. So you get to that point of desperation. Your will's already gone. That obsession is there, so you're going to get high. So it doesn't matter. If somebody offers you something that's going to relieve your pain from those withdrawals, you're not in your right state of mind. You just do it. And once that needle's in your arm, you're gone. As far as how it's getting, St. Louis is much different than places I grew up when I learned how to be a drug addict. You know, Chicago and New York is where I used to run. We have specific, what we call dope sets in those areas. That's where you drive to get the dope. It's more severely in the suburbs. St. Louis is much different. You do have a major one in North City, right off of like 70 and Broadway, 70 and Shreve. That area, a lot of the dope is coming in. But what's happening now is because people know that kids are hooked on pain pills, heroin's so popular, is that they're driving there, they're picking up this dope, and they're bringing it here and they're putting it on the streets. You know, back in my day when I was in high school in Skokie, Illinois, which was half an hour from the city, I mean, we had to drive into the ghetto. You know, so, and it's dangerous, and we don't even think about it. You know, just sober, I drive to those areas now when I have to talk to them, I took the press that I'm scared shitless. But when I'm in that boat or getting high, I don't care. You know, I pull up to a guy I don't even know, and I give him $200. And he gives me something that I don't know what it was. 5 minutes later, I'm in the bathroom at McDonald's with a needle around. You know, but it's here because I know I was up in Chicago last month speaking, and you know, a little town not too far from where I grew up. You know, it's their own suburbs. Little miniature dope sets. You know, same thing's happening here. I mean, in my active addiction, I wasn't exactly a law-abiding citizen, and I was involved in some things early, and I can tell you right now, in this area, I know of about 2 different houses within an 8-block radius where there's meth labs there. And, you know, what happens with meth labs is that they need their Sudafed boxes to make their meth. Guess who buys them their Sudafed boxes? Heroin addicts. because we pay $5 for a box, they give us 50. So we're basically mules for meth cokes. And then, you know, we hang out with the meth cokes and people on meth. They've been up for 3 weeks, and they want to finally go to sleep. Trust me, it's been up for 3 weeks before. Eventually, you do want to go to sleep. Do a shot of dope. It creates this relationship with a meth cook and heroin addict. It's very dangerous. Anybody else? Okay, main focus. You can't recover from heroin addiction. The odds are not good. Okay, I think it's still 95% you don't. Okay, but you know what? Something that, and about that girlfriend thing, I get it. I know it's annoying, but I suffer from the only disease I get yelled at for having. Okay, plain and simple. And you know, it's like, it's something that just, like, the only thing I want you to take away from here, the main thing is wrap your head around that a little bit, is that, you know, there's a responsibility. I am responsible for everything I did in active addiction. I have to clean up the wreckage from my past. I have to put my life back together, which I'm doing now. I mean, eventually I may be able to get my law license back. I don't know. Shit. I never like being a lawyer. And, you know, I mean, there's things I have to do now, but it's such a fine line and it's so hard to do. Just think about it. That I separate the disease from the person. And, you know, it's like if somebody has cancer or diabetes, you know, and they you know, they go back into the, you know, come out of remission. Would you get mad at them? Would you kick them out of your house? I would, yeah, I mean, actually, I tell parents to kick their kids out of their house, which I can't believe I'm the one telling them to do that, you know? But that's just to protect them, you know, but as far as, like, you know, you have to protect yourself from dealing with drug addicts. First and foremost, you have to protect yourself, because we all have demons. Everyone in this room's got a demon. You got to deal with it on your own time, too, and then putting the demon of whatever you have inside you as a drug addict is extremely dangerous. But it's like, you wouldn't cut a family member out of your life because they came out of remission 5 times and had cancer. Why would we do the same thing to a drug addict? We look at them as a piece of shit. They don't deserve our love. They do. They're just sick. You know, and you know, we don't know how sick we are. And that's one of the main things I like to talk when I talk to people in early recovery, is that you don't realize how sick you are until you get away from it. Everything I thought, every time I went, every 5, 6 times I went to rehab, 6 times worked. Every time I walked in, about 4 days in, I got clean. I was done. Done. I felt great. My family was talking to me again. I was sleeping. My track marks were healing. I was actually feeling better about my life and who I was. Every time except that last time I got out of the day, I got out. I was binge going. I didn't know shit. Plain and simple. We are so wrapped up in this monster house, and this thing has such a grasp on us that there's no way to tell if what we're saying is real. We're masters of manipulation and lying, and we're so good, we convince ourselves of all our bullshit. But, you know, there's a way to help them, and it's to get them into treatment, get them involved with other addicts in recovery that know how to stay clean. That's the only way. I'll be here for a little bit. I got to get to work tonight. Yeah. Oh, I have pamphlets up here. They're pretty. Orange. I got like a couple bracelets left, so feel free to take them. Erica, other people I met, they do have my contact information if anybody needs to talk. Even, you know, everything I do. I mean, what I do, basically, just for my life now, is that I'm like an addict's last resort. You have no money, you have no insurance, you have nowhere to go. That's usually where you find me. And I'll get them in detox, and I'll work at getting them into treatment. So, you know, even if you're dealing with somebody in your life, even if it's not heroin, you know, when you need someone to talk to on a confidential basis, that's why we're here. You know, because like I said, by addicts, for addicts, we can help them out. Yes.
Kind of what I was going to ask you is there any way we can identify a person that's maybe heading down that road and try to...
We have a disease based on self-centered fear, and it manifests itself in so many different ways that it's almost impossible to diagnose. I mean, believe me, I wish we could. You know, I could tell you, you know, I mean, it's like getting inside somebody, and it's hard, you know, plain and simple. You know, you're going to see behavior changes. One of the biggest things you do in active addiction is you isolate. I don't want to be around anybody. I'll start getting high with like 4 or 5 people. You know, after a couple months, you ain't going to near me because you're going to touch my dope. you take my connection. You know, we start isolating, we start becoming different people. But as far as a precursor to all of this, no. I mean, that's the root. You know, one thing we all share, addicts share, is that we have a superiority complex about the world. We think we are better than everybody, we're smarter, we're funnier, we're faster. We just feel like there's something different about us. But because we have that complex, we have an inferiority complex about it, and we can't hate ourselves. We just don't understand. You know, Facebook is awesome for one reason, is that because when I was in active addiction, I wanted everybody to know my pain and my misery because it was special. I'm not freaking special, you know. I mean, to this day I'm not, you know. Maybe to my mom, you know, I was special when I was her kid, but to the general world, I'm not shit. But I thought I was for the longest time. I thought that I should have everything handed to me in a silver spoon because I felt different. You didn't understand my pain. You didn't know what I was going through. Whine. So I see it now with all my friends. And it's like they make me sad something. It's like crying out. No one understands me. Help me, please, please. Give me a freaking break. You know what's going on. You know, I mean, one of the ways it manifested itself in my life is that I was always trying to fit in. I could be in a room full of 20 of my best friends, be the most popular person in the room. I felt like I belonged. And one thing always accepted me and always took me back was the dope.
Felt what?
And it belonged. Felt like I mean, I just never felt comfortable not just in my own skin, but around other people. And other people, until now, because this whole thing's about self-acceptance. That's what it all comes down to. You know, back then, no. I mean, I could be in a party, you know, messed up. I always felt different. Even back, you know, this manifested itself when I was a little kid, with like living in a fantasy world in my head, or being the center of attention. I always, you know, my shit always had to be out there. But, you know, again, just because a kid has a little bit of fear, maybe is a little awkward, you know, you never know. It could just be awkward. Yes?
Question. Did your parents ever get to see you clean? Like
My
before
parents
them?
never saw me high.
Never saw you hide?
They knew, you know, like I said, I mean, there's a story out of Alcoholics Anonymous, the pickle and cucumber story. Basically, if you take a cucumber and you dip it in brine long enough, eventually it's going to become a pickle. You never go back. It's kind of what happened to me. I got hooked on sleeping pills when I was in law school from my psychiatrist. And that was like a transformation, because at 18, 19, 20, I mean, I remember one time I was like 23, I was in school, so I remember I had some coke one night, and we were all out partying, and I came home, and it's like I had done my last line, and I wanted to go to sleep, I had stuff to do the next day, and I flushed like, you know, like 50, 75 bucks for the coke, because I just didn't want to do it the next day. That is something I would never do to this day. You know, that was prior to me becoming a pickle. After that, no, that wouldn't have lasted more than 10 minutes nowadays. So, you know, they knew I screwed around when I was a teenager, but they knew I was taking a few too many sleeping pills. But as far as my full-blown, you know, losing everything, becoming just a derelict drug addict, they never saw it. They never saw it, which I'm grateful for.
Right.
You know, but I'm also sad that you don't get to see this kid.
Right.
So it's bittersweet, but it's okay.
Okay, this may be a silly question. You're talking about like AA programs. Are there AA programs in Monroe County? Are there?
Yes.
They're everywhere.
I mean, yeah. I just didn't.
And if you, we have, okay, I won't say that, I can talk about this. There's Alcoholics Anonymous, there's Narcotics Anonymous, there's Heroin Anonymous, there's Cocaine Anonymous, there's Crystal Meth Anonymous. If you feel you need one in this area, and you know an addict that would be willing to do it, start a meeting right here, there's one. There's NARANON, which is Narcotics Anonymous for family members of drug addicts. Basically, working a 12-step program for yourself so you can understand the biggest concept they try to teach at these, there's NARANON and Al-Anon. The biggest concept they try to teach is what I kind of talked about, called detachment with love. It's also love that addict, but you have to detach yourself from their lives. Those are crucial, crucial, crucial if you have an addict in your life, because you have to learn how to live your life. Because, I mean, addiction is a family disease. It affects everybody. Everybody. And, you know, you know, I'm not talking, this isn't a religious thing. I'm praying like God, because I'm an agnostic Buddhist. You know, there's no religion here. This is just how to deal when your life is turned upside down in drug addiction for everybody. So, I mean, they're available. You And again, our contact information, if you have any questions, just let me know. Anybody else? I think I covered everything.
Thank you, Chad.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome.
Courtney is our next speaker. Courtney actually went through Waterloo Junior High as well as Waterloo High School recently, got your GED, and is recovering also. And Courtney?
All right, I'm kind of going to cover like my story and how I got started out and all that. I have 6 months clean now, which anyway, but I mean, it was a long struggle. I didn't go to treatment, and I used for 5 years, and I was a heroin addict specifically for 3. And I didn't go to treatment until February of this year, and when I got out, I started getting high. And I mean, it took a lot. But how I got started, the first time I had ever gotten high, I was 12, and I had just smoked some weed. And I mean, I don't remember actually like being high, but I remember being very guilt-ridden and very upset with the fact that I had just done drugs because I was 12 years old, and I went home crying and told my mom. And, you know, she was just like, she didn't yell at me, scream at me, anything, you know, she did sit down and she talked with me, you know, and was like, you know, you don't need to do that, you know, and talked to me about the consequences, and I didn't. I didn't touch it for a long time, but then at 13, you know, I started smoking weed on a regular basis, pretty much every day. And then, I mean, I did go through a period of time, I would only get high on the weekends, and I didn't want to get high any other time, and if I couldn't on the weekends, I was okay with that. But, you know, eventually, you're not there anymore. It escalates. And but before I was 14, I was popping pills, be it pain pills, Xanax, Vicodin, well, that's big, but like Klonopin, whatever would make me high. I mean, I got to the point I was just going through the medicine cabinets, and even if it couldn't get me high and I wasn't sure, I would take it because I wanted to get better than where I was at as far as, well, not better, but you know what I mean. When I was 14, I was, you know, I was at the high school, and I would get high before school. I had a couple friends who were, like, they were neighbors. I grew up with them. They were like 16, 17, and I'd ride to school with them. You know, my mom watched me grow up with these kids. My mom knew these kids. She trusted me and these kids together. Well, we were getting high every day before school. We would leave. High school doesn't start till 7:45. We'd leave probably around 6:30. And we would just go and we'd drive around the back roads, smoking weed, drinking. You know, it didn't matter. When I was 15, I had a pretty traumatic experience happen in my personal life. And at this point, I had tried heroin. I didn't like it too much. I mean, it made me sick. You know, and that's usually when you first do it, you get sick. I mean, and people don't like it, but eventually, you know, they'll try it again. And I had tried it at this point, but at that, I knew where it took me because I would black out. And I mean, I wanted to be to the point of a blackout. And so at 15, I started doing heroin, and within a few months, I was shooting dope. Heroin, but I called dope. I was shooting it up. I mean, I was shooting up in the bathrooms at the high school. I was dealing prescription pills that weren't even mine. I had some people I knew that would sell me the prescription bottles for like $50, and overall, I could sell the prescription for about $300. So I mean, I made a $250 profit. Or I could sit there and eat pills that I basically paid nothing for. You know, make the $50 back, and I just eat the rest of them for myself. I was dealing in the schools. I don't think I went a single day after probably second semester my freshman year that I was not high at school. If not, I was not at school because I was going through withdrawal. Because I would start going through withdrawals within a couple hours. I mean, I would set alarms in the middle of the night just so I could get high again, because if not, I knew I'd wake up sick and start getting sick. And sometimes I wouldn't wake up when I got sick. You know, I would just get sick and just like sleeping, and it didn't matter to me. I mean, and no one in my life noticed. My parents didn't notice. I had pretty decent grades up until around 8th grade. I mean, and then it was just maybe like B, C student at that point. Not even that. Just hardly ever C, but it did happen. And I mean, I was in high school. I was involved in extracurricular activities. I did color guard. I was on winter guard. I did Big Brothers Big Sisters, German club. You know, I was in all kinds of stuff, and I stayed involved until I got to the point that I didn't even want to be around people. Like, I hated going to school. As far as I was concerned, everybody was just, I don't know, they were just dumb. They were not, I didn't need them anywhere near me. And I mean, I tried to fight it quite a few times because people were just very frustrating, because I mean, they'd say one thing, like, one circumstance I can remember specifically, this girl was telling people I was getting high. No, I wasn't. This as far as I was concerned, no, I was not getting high. And I was going to go and I probably would have killed this girl if I got my hands on her. Maybe not in a literal sense, but pretty close to it. And I mean, when I was about 2 weeks before I turned 17, it was my junior year in high school. My parents got a call from the school saying that I was under the influence. My mom and I have talked about it since then, and she said even when she got to the school before she saw me, she was like, no, Courtney doesn't do that. That's not Courtney. And then she saw me. I was completely out of it. I thought everything was perfectly fine. You know, the police were there, but okay, I wasn't in trouble. You know, I wasn't slurring, I wasn't stumbling, I was walking down. You know, there's in the middle of January, there's snow on the ground. I was in pants, boots, and a tank top, and I was sweating. I mean, it was disgusting. And I mean, my parents, they had no idea I was getting high up until that point in time. And they put me in an outpatient treatment. I went there, like they were looking into inpatient and everything else, and I did a couple intakes at some places, but this one, 2 of them recommended outpatient and 1 recommended inpatient. So we went on ahead and we did the outpatient. And the outpatient they happened to put me in, the counselor allowed us to get high, as long as we weren't doing our drug of choice. So as long as I was not doing any type of opiates, because we still got drug tested, and you know, heroin's an opiate. And as long as I wasn't doing any type of opiate to where I get a positive test, it was okay for me to get high. So there I started doing cocaine and ecstasy and all kinds of stuff, and I did that for months. And then finally I got out of that, and I didn't have to be there anymore. But every week I had this piece of paper from my parents saying I tested clean, and had nothing in my system, which in reality I thought it was awesome for me, but in reality it was probably the worst thing I could have done. And sorry, I talk to my hands a lot. Well, we got a new counselor because he got caught up with some girl in there, actually told them what was going on. And because he couldn't come in and like drop us women because, you know, he can't come in there with us. And so he'd have to go get a woman counselor, but what he'd do is he'd send 2 of us that were in there to go drop each other. And then the other one told him what it was, and everybody was using in there. So we were all like, no, they're clean, you know, it's all good. And I mean, so to a point I was able to start using opiates eventually while I was still in there. And they got a new counselor, and I had stopped going. He had told us that, because they have what they called it an aftercare, you could go for free and just, you know, just to be there after you got out. And he told us we could come back at any time. Well, I hadn't gone in like 3-4 months, and well, actually probably about a month at this point. And then I went back, and the counselor looked at me, and she's just like, I'm gonna drop you. I'm like, no, you're not. And I walked out and I went home. And well, I made a pit stop, but you know. Then I went up a couple months later because I finally realized it was around November of last year. I realized I did have a problem, and I had tried stopping. I tried detoxing myself. First time I made it maybe a day, and then after that I couldn't go more than a few hours because I was not dealing with it because your muscles ache, you can't hold yourself up. I mean, the last time I went through withdrawal, I was just literally standing in my living room looking at my mom talking, and I just collapsed because my muscles couldn't even hold me up. I mean, I couldn't get through that on my own. So I went back up there to talk to them to figure out my options, and they told me since I hadn't been in over 30 days that I'd have to pay all over again, and I'd have to start everything over, and I wasn't having that. So, I mean, I kept trying, and finally I didn't care anymore. And I mean, I got to the point I was trying to overdose and kill myself, but for some reason it didn't happen. And I mean, I'm grateful for that today. But I mean, I tried that several times. My habit got up to probably around $150, $200 a day. And I mean, a person who's never done and had like heroin or opiates and has no opiate tolerance, you can have $10. And I was doing quite a bit there. And like they call it throwing you extras. And basically, like with my dope dealer, I could go spend $10 each, and if I had $30, he'd give me an extra, so I'd get $40 worth. And I mean, I was spending between $150 and $200 a day, so I'd get all these extras. And every time, like after you hit 30, if you spend 40, you're gonna get 5. And they throw you an extra every, 40, you're gonna get 6. They throw you an extra for every like $10 after the thing. And that's where I was at. And I mean, I went to Ms. Costello and Mr. Sharon, and I told them I have a problem and I need help, and I don't know how to tell my parents, because I mean, I couldn't do that on my own because I didn't know if it was going to be screaming, yelling. I don't know. My parents were pretty hard on me. I had to have being a B student, and if I didn't have that, I was on lockdown. And I mean, so I wasn't that, but you know, they kind of let me be like, come on, it's the weekend, you know, they let me go. And you know, so I mean, it was a pretty tough situation, and I didn't know what was going to happen with that because I knew my parents were done and fed up with me after the first go around. And well, we called my mom together. My dad was at work, and my mom came and picked me up from school because like she asked me, are you under the influence of anything? And you know, me being me, I lied about it because my junior year I did get expelled. I got kicked out of school. I couldn't go back until this past year. And so I was like, no, you know, and she knew. I mean, there was no way she didn't know. I mean, I was sitting in the chair, like, nodding out, trying to hold my head up and continue a conversation with her. She was like, let's just have your mom come get you. My mom came and picked me up. Me and her friend, we went out to dinner. Well, somewhere between lunch and dinner, I don't remember much. And, I mean, then I went home, and I don't remember anything. I just remember arguing with my mom about how I needed to go to school the next day because I knew I was going to rehab, and I needed to say bye to all my little using buddies because I wasn't going to talk to them anymore. And my mom didn't think it was a good idea, but she let me go. And I had given my mom that day that she came pick me up, I gave her probably around, I don't know, $300-400 worth of drugs and paraphernalia. Because, you know, I didn't want it, but I saved just enough for me the next day so I didn't have to start getting sick at school. And anyway, I got high and I went to school, and I happened to stumble upon a thing, like we call them beans or buttons or bees, whatever you want to call them, but a little capsule of heroin that I didn't know was there, but I didn't want to do it because I was already high. And I went to someone at the school and I told them, and then shortly afterwards the police came. I don't really know exactly what all happened that day. I couldn't tell you. All I know is that I left in handcuffs. And I got arrested, and I caught a felony possession charge. And I'm now on probation for those charges. And I mean, I had 2 days clean when I got put on probation. But backtracking, the day I got arrested, my mom, she wouldn't take me home. She picked me up from the police station. My first sponsor that I had, where she works here in town. My mom took me to where she works, and they put me in the back room, and they had me sit there. I'm starting to get sick. I'm passed out. I'm not coherent. I mean, I don't know. I woke up sometime later that night, and I was like, what's going on? You know, I want to go home. I was worried about my cat involved, and I wasn't worried about my cat. I just wanted to go get high, but I'm throwing a tantrum about my cat, you know, and, well, my mom had been on the phone with places, and a lot of places wouldn't take me because I wasn't 18 yet. They were like, no, we can't take her, she's not 18, and it was exactly a week till my 18th birthday. And, so finally we found a place. My mom called them, and it was like 7 o'clock at night, and she finally got a hold of the place. They're like, yep, well, you can switch someone over, because where I went, they have halfway houses attached to it, and people who are close to getting out of the program, when they need a bed, they'll like move you over to the halfway house, but you still, you know, do the treatment program thing. And so they moved someone over there, and I got a bed. And my parents, I passed back out, and my mom like woke me up, and you know, I hadn't eaten at all that day. I was lucky if I ate at all every day. And you know, she's like, what do you want to eat? Because I started complaining because I was hungry because I didn't want to go. And even though, you know, I'd asked for it, but I didn't want to go. I mean, who wants to have to do that to themselves? And so I just started complaining about that, and she's like, well, what do you want? You know, I'll cook you something and I'll bring it over here, because my mom was not taking me home at all. And well, I was like, I want fast food because I'm not going to get to eat it. I don't know how long I'm going to be gone. Well, all I can really remember from the rest of that night is that I was sitting there in the car chowing on some McDonald's, and I didn't know what city I was in, what state I was in, but my mom pulled up, and she's like, we're here, and I was mad because I hadn't finished my food yet. And, you know, I woke up in the morning, I had no idea where I was at. I knew I was in a treatment center, I didn't know. And I realized later I was in St. Louis, so that was kind of nice, I guess. I was close to home. But I spent 28 days there, and I immediately like just started doing what I needed to do to stay clean. And by the time I got out, I stayed clean for 32 days after I got out, which was a total of 60. And then when I had 61, I decided it'd be cool to go get high and celebrate. And then I also had a pretty crappy week. So I was like, it's okay. You know, I have 60 days clean. I can control this. You can't control it. I mean, it's like you get hijacked, and you know, it's horrible. I mean, it's probably the worst experience I've ever had. But I started using. I used for about 4 days. I got about 6, 7 clean, and then I used for over a month, and I had 18 days clean. And then my mom was trusting me. I was going to stay with a friend, and this friend does not use. And well, there was some miscommunication, you know, through the texting and the calling and all that. And well, I was like, okay, and she lives in St. Louis. I'm like, well, I'm already in the city. Let's go get high. So I went and got high, and Illinois, we have a needle exchange program where you can go and you get clean needles and give them your dirty needles in a biohazard bins, you know, trying to stop the spread of like Hep C, HIV, and all that. And well, I picked up the dope with the people I was with. And so we decided we were going to come to Illinois, and well, we stopped at this gas station to get high in the bathroom. and it was a moto mart. You know, you have to take the keys and outside. And I remember I set the key on the counter. I stepped off the curb, fell, busted my head open. Didn't even know I busted my head open. And I was gonna drive, and then I was like trying to unlock the door. I couldn't get the key in the door, and I was like, "Take this, I can't drive." And I'm waiting by my passenger side of my car, and because I have my seats pushed forward, I had a 2-door car, and I was waiting for someone to get in the back. And from there, I just remember like sitting there, and I was thinking, I don't remember exactly what I was thinking, but it was something. It wasn't good, whatever it was. And then I remember just in the middle. I remember mid-fall, and then I woke up in a hospital, and I had overdosed. I had no recollection of what had happened. I was in the hospital. I woke up. I had no clue. They were like, you know, we think you had an overdose. You had puncture marks on your arms, and all this other stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's what happened, and broke down crying because you know it was really disappointing. And I mean, I was sitting there like the people I was with, they stole my car, all my money, my credit cards, everything that I had was in my car, everything. I had no idea. I would not tell this hospital who I was either. All my paperwork, I still have it, says Jane Doe. And I was sitting there trying to think of anybody I could call to come pick me so I wouldn't have to call my parents. And I sat there for about an hour just crying. And I mean, this is like after, well, the police eventually showed up and I caught another possession charge, but yeah, I wasn't on probation yet, so it didn't violate, and I still haven't officially been charged, which is cool. But the police showed up, I had a like mini panic attack, and I died again, because I was dead when I got to the hospital, and I died again, because there's a drug that's called Narcan. And I know they give it to you at the needle exchange, and it's like a nasal spray, and then like, I know at the hospitals it's like a liquid, like an IV, like a shot. And they had to give me 3 doses of that to bring me back, and usually it only takes 1. And finally I broke down, I called my parents, and I called my dad's cell phone several times, my mom several times, no one answered. I called my house phone several times, and finally like my little brother answered the phone. My little brother's 11 now, he was 10 at the time. And because I had left a couple more voicemails, like crying, panicked, you know, scared to death. And you know, he answered the phone, he's like, what's wrong? And I immediately, like, I just calmed down, I'm like, I need to talk to Mom. And my mom screamed at me and hung up. And after I had relapsed the last time, she told me that if I relapsed again, they were throwing me out and they weren't going to deal with me anymore. So I was thinking, I'm homeless, I have nowhere to go, I'm going to have hospital bills, and I'm trying to figure everything out. And like about another hour later, I called again, and she answered, and I'm like, are you guys coming or not? And she said yes, which was, and they came, and they brought me home, and I ended up, I did like have to deal with the police and all that. They had to come back and do an interview with me for their task force and everything else. And you know, when my parents did finally like take me home, we have a guest bedroom. My mom made me sleep in the guest bedroom because my room was in the basement, and my mom had to sleep in that bed with me for like 3 months. And they sold my car when they finally got it out of impound because the people I was with got pulled over for a DUI in my car. And like I didn't have a cell phone for the longest time, and I mean now I have it back, and my mom, that's who I've been texting over there. She's like, are you done? How's it going? You know, she has a GPS tracker on my phone. She tracks me everywhere I go. I mean, and I understand, she's scared. I mean, what parent wouldn't be? I mean, it scares me just knowing that me being an addict and the people I use with, it scares me for them. But I know I can't have open communication with them because that's just another door opening for me when I get messed up in my head. And you know, that still happens. And I mean, I know people who have several years clean that say they still have moments that they, you know, they get caught up in their heads. Like, I mean, I've been caught up in my head, like, I don't know, all week last week I was caught up in my head, but you know, I didn't run to the dope man. I called my sponsor, I stayed connected with people, I didn't isolate, you know, because that's what we do. And when I isolate, it's not good, whether I'm thinking about getting high or not. If I start isolating, I will end up getting high. And I've been clean ever since, and I mean, it's a struggle every day. And I mean, it starts young, and a lot of people don't think that, you know, but, you know, I will say, like, you know, I did the DARE program, which everybody does, and they mainly focused on weed. So once I did that, and I didn't die, it was okay. You know, and like my brother's in it now, and I've looked through his book, and they don't really focus on a lot of the drugs or the alcohol in there, and like educating the kids of what can happen. It was mainly peer pressure. I saw 2 pages in that book involving drugs, really, and it was a tobacco page and an alcohol page, and they skipped them both. I mean, it's like they need to focus like on the education, you know, and that's something that's part of the reason I'm here, you know, because I want you guys to know to help somebody else. Because I mean, even if it only helps one person, you know, that is one more person that's not falling victim to this. I mean, because each and every person that even picks up a drug and starts dealing with this, they're a victim. I mean, as Chad said, it is a disease. you know, we can't control that. And, you know, I don't know, I guess that's really all I got about me. I do want to talk about like signs to actually like look for though. Because I mean, I had some of you as teachers when I started using, and I was at the other building, but you know, some of you had me in class, and I just like, you know, falling asleep, red eyes, which in the morning, okay, if they still have it, that's kind of cool because you know some people just have that when they wake up in the morning. I do that when I get up in the morning now. But I mean, if it's like second, third hour, and their eyes are still all puffy and pink and bloodshot, there's something going on there. There's no way there's not. And I mean, I know like once I got into the harder drugs, nodding out, sleeping all the time, not eating at lunch, bruising. I mean, I ran around in t-shirts and tank tops, and you know, with a full 3/4, 3-finger thick rule, but you know, but I had bruises, and I mean, I walked around, I had bruises, I had track marks. I mean, my arms, like, I still have bruising up here that is yet to heal, and I've been clean for over 6 months now. You know, it's like, it's there, and it's obvious. And I mean, and then I had some teachers, once I was in high school, they would hear me talking about it, because me and my friend, we were not hiding what we were doing. And they would just tell us, this is not the time or the place to talk about it. And they would just brush it off. You know, so it's some of it people are just ignoring, you know, probably thinking teenage experimentation, but the thing is though, it's affecting kids now to where they're dying and they're dropping like flies. I know, like, since I started using, I know of at least 7 people that I got high with that have died of heroin overdoses. And one was a totally different, it was an opiate overdose, but it was not heroin. But you know, it's affecting kids our age because only one of them was over 20. The rest of them were in their teens. And you know, it's something that really does need to be taken care of, and the awareness needs to be spread. It's scary. I mean, I don't like seeing people go through that, and I know you guys probably don't like seeing like students go through that, and it's bad. And I mean, a lot of people, they also have parents who are addicts. I mean, I know some people I had with it. Yes.
Or tell people what you ought to have done instead of telling you it wasn't the time to talk about it. What should an active teacher or administrator do that thinks they have a student that's high, and how, that's number one. Number two, how do we make sure our kids that are coming up from the high school to be role model big brothers and big sisters aren't high when they come to talk to our kids?
I did that.
How can we encourage you from doing that?
Yeah, I know I did have one teacher that actually did say something. They sent me down to the guidance office at the high school. At that point, like at that day specifically, I was high, but I wasn't like slurring all like completely out of it. So I just managed to lie my way out of it. I mean, basically all you can do is you can just like send them down to the office or send them to the guidance, you know, just have someone sit down and talk to them. Because I mean, some people like they'll go to school high and they've never really even gotten high, you know, and then someone says something to them, they're gonna break. But I mean, then others like I've been doing it for years already at that point in time. And as far as I was concerned, you know, I didn't have a problem, everybody else had the problem with me. I mean, I just basically just watching for the signs. And I mean, and if you think like if someone coming over for Big Brothers Big Sisters is high, send them down to the office here or call the school, call whoever's in charge of it. You know, and be like, look, this is what I think is going on. And I mean, there's really, I don't know of anything else that more that you guys can do. I mean, you can't force us into treatment. You know, that's a parent's responsibility, you know. Because I mean, and if their parents are in denial, then it's not gonna happen anyway. I know. Yeah.
I was going to say, when you talked in the high school, you said that you told the teachers that you were always late coming to class.
Yes.
And all the teachers were like, you were always late coming to class.
Yes.
And you said, because you were in the bathroom.
I was either in the bathrooms or I was out driving around, hitting roads, drinking, whatever I did, I showed like 20, 30 minutes late to school. I mean.
And she said you went to classes late all the time. Well, you also told us you had a spoon in your pocket.
Oh yeah, either in my bra or in my pocket. I mean, the bra was probably the best place because they can't really be like, empty your bra and like you can just sit there, oh, there's nothing there, you know, they can't reach in there and do that.
You had said, kind of started with me, is she had walked out with a spoon in her back pocket, and you said nobody ever asked you, why do you have a spoon?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time, like I wear shirts, like even now I wear shirts that cover the tops of my pockets. So I mean, like hoodies especially, you're not going to see it through a hoodie. So I mean.
But I didn't think something, you know, just being late all the time to class, because then everybody's gone to class, so she doesn't, am I right? That was what, you know, that you had time or something.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I would do it during passing periods, even if there were people there, because I mean, if there's enough people in the bathroom, you're not gonna hear the click of the lighter or the slam of the spoon on the, like, toilet paper holder. You're not gonna hear any of that. And, I mean, it would just depend. Like, I mean, if it was when no one was in there, and then someone walked in, I mean, most people would probably, like, if it was in the needle, shoot it out and then, like, throw it away in, like, you know, one of the trash cans or something. But, like, I know with me, like, I've had that happen. I literally would, like, just pick everything up, hold the spoon in my mouth and sit there and pull it into the needle and then put the cap on it and put it in my bra and wait. I mean, and then like leave the bathroom and walk to another one, or leave and then kind of like peep around the corner waiting and then run back in.
But being late to class, do the teachers, like if the bell rings, does anybody check the bathrooms to see if there's students still in there, or do they ever, or you know, when everyone comes back from lunch, do you guys do bathroom checks, or, I mean, honestly, look in the bathrooms to see, or if anybody's still in there, or?
Because I mean, there's drug deals going on in the bathrooms too. I mean, and I partook in that. I was selling everything. Like, I mean, I know everybody that uses in my age range in this area.
See, I just find that odd because back in, you know, when I went to high school, we actually had, during recess and stuff, a teacher that stayed in the bathroom, and it wasn't really that big so I would think now it would, I don't know, different, like they'd be more on top of it.
Would you have considered yourself a good kid that was being overlooked because you were a good kid? Or were you just being overlooked because, I don't know. I want to know if we're overlooking good kids, and you all know what I'm talking about, because they don't break rules and they're all good kids. And are we only picking on the kids who look the part, look like junkies, or look like they're high, or look like they're stoned, or have been, broken homes, have other issues?
I mean, I can't really say for sure. Like, I know, like, with my parents have told me, they overlooked me because I held a job down. I went to school. I mean,
doing what you were expected to do.
Yeah, basically, I did what I was expected to keep me out of trouble so I could stay out there on the streets.
Okay.
I mean, there were dangerous situations that, like, I stayed on the streets. The first time I made my own dope run, I got shot at. And all I did was fly down to the back seat and waited for it to end, and then I got up and walked up to the dope man's door. I mean, with me, I know my parents overlooked it because they didn't expect it out of me. Because, you know, I did stay involved in a lot of stuff, and I mean, I'm not really sure how, like, in junior high I can understand where I got overlooked specifically because I wasn't all strung out, acting crazy, eyes sunk into the back of my head at that point. You know, but in high school, like, most of the teachers just brushed it off and were like, don't talk about that, this isn't the place, you know, and all this other stuff, and, or, you know, hey, wake up, and that was it. I mean, there's a difference between falling asleep and nodding. I mean, falling asleep, you know, everybody does that, you know, but it's like their eyes are kind of closed, nodding, it's kind of like you're fighting it, and like you're sitting there bobbing. And I mean, because I don't know how many times my face would fall off my hand and I'd slam into the desk and I wouldn't wake up. I just stayed out. Yeah.
Continuing to touch on like morning side of things to look for, can you speak to slang and also something you spoke about at the high school, which is kind of the argumentative behavior that you talked about?
I can do that. I know slang, like, I know for heroin, I know like H, boy, trying to think of all of them now, I'm not really, H, boy, heroin, dope, brown, because it's like when you put it in like water and you suck it into the needle, the water's slightly diluted and it's all brown. Like, it looks like dirty water, pretty much. I'm not really sure with all the other ones. I mean, I can give you the ones I do know. Like, I know meth is like smack. Cocaine, speed, people call it speed even though it's not really speed. It's a stimulant, but people call it speed. White girl, trying to think. I know acid, LSD, it really, like, I'm trying to think of all, like, weed could be like ganja, which, you know, they have songs about that.
Heroin button.
Button, I mean, they could say buttons or beans. Like, I know when I didn't do that. I know with my experience, I didn't. I mean, I would to the dope man or to people I was getting high with, but I wouldn't say it like that in school. I know weed like ganja, weed, pot, green. I can't really think of all of them off the top of my head right now. And then the argumentative. I and argued continuously. Like, I didn't like anybody, and the teachers were like my worst enemy as far as I was concerned, because they wanted to know what I was doing, or they'd call me and answer a question, and I wasn't going to answer it, even if I knew the answer. I got very argumentative, and I mean, I'm not a violent person. I mean, I wanted to fight all the time, or get in people's faces, scream, yell, fight back, argue with the teachers over absolutely nothing. The guidance counselors, principal, I didn't care who it was. If you made me mad, you were going to know about it. And I mean, it's your whole nature changes, because I mean, for those of you that probably saw me like 6th, mid-7th grade, you know, somewhere there, I was pretty nice for the most part, and smiley and bubbly. Like, I mean, I'm like that now. And I tried to keep up that persona, but to the point, I was angry about everything. I was angry at the world. And I mean, I know that's a lot of people who do heroin. They get angry at the world. So yeah. And I have a couple questions. Okay.
You said when you were 12, 13, you started, and you said you spent $200 a day. Where does a 13-year-old get $200 a day?
I did not. I was not at that point. I was not.
When did you hit that point? Where you
I hit that point probably when I was around 15. And for me, I was dating guys who were in their mid to late 20s that were giving me the drugs. Like the first time I ever like shot up heroin, I didn't do it. I passed out on the floor at the party, and my boyfriend at the time thought it'd be cool to stick a needle in my arm. And I mean, I woke up in the middle of it and I was okay with it, because I just wanted to get high and I was okay with it. And I mean, I know that's where I got it, and I mean, that's what a lot of younger girls are doing now. Is like, I mean, they will go out on the street, they'll start turning their tricks. They're doing whatever they can to get the drug that they want and that they need to survive, because we go into animal instinct. I mean, we just basically go to survival mode. We're not living, we're just existing.
Our students are definitely going to be starting with the prescription drugs. What should we be listening for them to be talking about prescription drugs? You gave us all the other names for things. What do we need to listen for?
Oh, I'm trying to think of that, because like I know, like I sold prescription drugs, and the thing is, I would test the majority of the time during the day, like phones especially. Watch those. But like Klonopin, that was one of my personal favorites. It could be like K-Pin. Then Xanax could be Z's or Xannies. Oxycontin, OCs. Vicodin, Bikes. I mean, prescription pills don't really have a lot of street names. I mean, or Xanax could also be school buses or footballs or peaches, because like of the different sizes, that's how we would differentiate with those. I know, I know I would say script a lot. Like I wouldn't say prescription, I just said script, which you know people do, oh I gotta go drop my script off, or I gotta go pick up my script. And I mean, I know I did that a lot. But I mean, I did the majority of mine through texting in school when I was dealing, because I mean, it was just easier, okay, I'm in the bathroom this passing period this time, you know, try to get out, and if you can't, let me know. That just made it easier.
What made you try something the very first time?
Well, I tried pot, was the very first thing I ever did, and I'd say that was more curiosity for me. But then, like, I mean, and I didn't touch anything from box. And
So you smoked at one time, and then you were done.
And then I'd say about 5 to 6 months later, I picked it up, and I mean, I did it on the weekends, and finally it was every day. I mean, people get addicted. I was in treatment with like 2 people that were in there for just marijuana. I mean, I know they say like there's really not any physical withdrawal, that I can't really vouch for. I haven't gone through withdrawal from weed, but it's more psychological.
So the first time you tried, you just were curious as to why?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I was with a group of kids that I ran around with all the time, and one of them, and he's still out there. I talked to him.
Is it peer pressure maybe?
I don't know, like, I mean, he didn't pressure me. He was just doing, I'm like, oh, what are you doing? You know, thinking like, he's smoking a cigarette, give me a cigarette, because I was smoking cigarettes at this time. And, no, he was like, oh, I'm smoking weed, and he'd gotten it from his older sister. His older sister was 23 at the time, and, you know, we were 12, 13, and she'd just given it to him. I mean, I partied with both him and his sister for a long time during my using. I mean, because the older siblings, you know, they're thinking they're helping their little siblings out, you know, being the cool kid, and all that other stuff. And I mean, in reality, that's not what you're doing, because you don't know what's going to happen with them.
Okay, so you weren't in any type of distress at home or anything like that where you were trying to escape from problems or anything like that? Just curiosity that started it for you?
Yeah, that. And then, like, from there, it was just, with the weed, I just kind of kept smoking it. And then when I started getting into harder stuff, it was because like, I was just like hitting teenhood and I was dealing like, I got bullied a little bit, not much, but I did get bullied a little bit, and that stressed me out, and I don't have a high self-esteem, and I'm still working on that today, and that's gonna be a while, that's gonna be a process I have to build it up because I need to go lower and lower and lower with my youth.
That's pretty prominent in the teenage years anyway.
Yeah.
So, what hospital did you get treated at?
When I overdosed, St. Elizabeth's in Belleville.
In Belleville?
Yes.
I have stories about that too. I had a nephew who was into the scene big time, and they turned us away because he wasn't high at the time. So I took him again, and he said, I took some pills so that they can't tell us to go away. That's what hospitals are doing.
But like, were you taking him up there to like get treatment or for
Yes,
overdose?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
see, hospitals.
And the only time they did anything about it was when he threatened his own life.
Yeah, see, that's with hospitals, they don't have like a treatment. Most of them do not have a treatment facility for drug abuse. And the only way, I know people that are clean now or that have recently gone back out to get clean and get through the detox, they sit there and put themselves on like a 72-hour side watch and say they wanted to kill themselves just because they couldn't keep themselves from going.
I do have a great hospital though, that in case anybody ever needs one, it's called Center Point. It's over in Missouri.
Oh, Center Point's a treatment center.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's excellent. I've had some doing with that. And it's an excellent facility. Anybody needs it. I've got lots of information. I've got the phone number. Actually, I've got it right here. But it's a very, very good hospital.
It's just hard when the kids are a certain age and there's no insurance, like to find a state-funded bed, and that's
Yeah,
what
then
we're into the
you have to
problem.
go through, it's not easy to list
Gateway?
it. What?
Gateway?
Well, they talked about Gateway, but
Well,
there's
Gateway's
another one
profit
over
now, it
in-
used to be non-profit, and Gateway changed, so now.
Yeah, Gateway changed.
Yeah.
That's
like Missouri, we're ahead of the times as far as getting into the schools and stuff. Missouri is way behind that, they're just now starting that. But they have a lot more treatment facilities and more options out there. And where Illinois, has the 911 Good Samaritan, Missouri does not. So there's just so many boundaries and so many gray areas.
One thing with treatment centers that and this is my personal opinion, is, most of them don't even accept insurance. I know where my parents took me, they didn't accept insurance. And if my dad didn't make the salary he made, I couldn't have gone. Because my parents paid $7 grand for me to get in, and then they have a detox medication doctor, which he overprescribes the detox meds, which kept me messed up even longer while I was in there until I started refusing them. That you have to pay $1,500 to see one time. So my parents paid over $8 grand for 28 days. And and I had to supply my own laundry soap, I had to do my own laundry, all that. It was not which I'm cool with doing my laundry soap. I'm cool with doing my laundry because I'm okay with that. But it's like they paid that much for 28 days worth of living. And it wasn't even me living, I was just kind of chilling in a bed for 2 weeks, detoxing, and then going to groups occasionally whenever I felt like it because they didn't really force it on you.
Can we coordinate a list, Vicki? Can you just come up with a list of some terminology, so when we're walking down the halls, and if we hear, just some familiar words, slang words, that would be keywords for us to listen to and email them to us?
I can do that.
Because half of what Courtney said, I didn't understand,
She's plugged in, she's talked a mile a minute.
Sorry, I don't understand because
Yeah.
I've never, but if we knew some phrases or some slang words for these things, at least we know what we're hearing.
Is the junior high principal here?
Yep.
Okay, I thought you were junior high. One of the things that I provided to the high school, which the management has, is from a DEA agent, was a trifold. Did you get one of those? That actually looks, it is to scale the pills, prescription, the narcotics, and basically it's in the hands there because I believe the way the teachers are taught is that if you suspect something, you're supposed to send them into the office. Is that right? Okay. So I'll get you some of those. And again, it's true to form of what to look for. But yes, I'll definitely email the contacts, Kelly Lurch or yourself, And maybe you can put it out to you as to what you.
Yeah, I mean, just some general things, because we've got hundreds of kids passing through the hallway at once.
Right.
You hear all kinds of little bits and pieces as you walk down the hall.
Exactly. Jean?
I'd like to thank Courtney for coming and speaking.
I think you should tell the group where you are now and what you're doing now. Today.
Now I work a 12-step program. I work my steps. And that's something I have to do a little bit of something every day, because if not, I do get caught up in my head. Like last week, I got so caught up in my head, I decided I was going on a run and I didn't have a vehicle, and I walked 8 miles because I drove it the next day. I walked 8 miles before I decided I was turning around and I was walking back home. And my mom was sleeping, had no idea about any of this, you know, so like I walked 16 miles in one day just because I was gonna go get one and then change my mind. You know, I know one thing that they say, like I've heard several times, once the seed of recovery is planted, it's kind of hard just to ignore. Like, I mean, every time I relapsed after I got out of treatment, because I mean, I did it quite a few times, I felt like crap. Like, I was a piece, I was guilt-ridden, I had a lot of shame. I mean, it's hard to do. I mean, I can say I still do have some addiction problems. I can't keep my hands on my money. I work 2 jobs and I have no money, if that's
You're working. You're working.
But you work, yeah.
Yes, I'm working, and I'm starting school in January. I'm going to St. Louis Community College down on Merrimack Bottom Road, which I'm pretty stoked about because I really did enjoy school, but while using, I hate school. So I'm really hoping it's going to go okay. But I mean, and it took some time for me to do that. And I got expelled twice. You know, I had to go through getting the GED process, deal with being so upset over graduation. Because, I mean, I already ordered my hat, my gown, everything, so I have all that. I just didn't get to use it. It's still in its pretty little boxes in the plastic bags. And, I mean, but it's, with time, people do move on. I mean, I'm back to work. I mean, when I was I had to quit my job, but I'm now back to work. I'm getting ready to start school. And, you know, and now I can help people too. And, I mean, for me, to help even one person, that makes me feel awesome. You know, which, even not exactly a good thing, but a little bit of an ego boost there if even one person gets helped, you know, because this is a problem, and a lot of people don't realize it or they don't care because they're thinking, you know, that junkie in the alley, and it's not like that. I'm 18 years old, and I've already dealt with all this, you know. It can be anybody in your life, and it comes from all walks of life, and people don't think that anymore. And I mean, that's what like I'm here trying to do is to say, hey, I'm still a kid, and I can still, you know, I did all this, and I can get clean young. You know, because I will say sometimes I'm like, everybody's out partying, they're all drinking, well, I can go have a beer. No, I can't have a beer, because if I get a beer, I'm going to go. You know, it's hard, especially for younger people, it is harder, because, you know, everybody is still like in that whole college, happy-go-lucky, let's go party and experiment phase. No. I mean, and that's something, and that is a struggle, you know, but you know, if you're part of a 12-step program or do something or like on a regular basis to focus on yourself and your recovery, then you can meet people. I mean, I have a big network of people I talk to, and they're all between like 16 and 28, 29. And I mean, but I will run around with people older than my mother that are clean, and I have a blast doing that. So, yeah. So are there any more questions?
Glad you turned around.
And I just wanted to reiterate on some of the things that she had pointed out is that it does know no socioeconomic class. Since I have taken over in 2010, we've had 10 deaths related to either fentanyl, oxycontin, oxycodone, hydrocodone, heroin, cocaine. That's what I've seen. And it's all from the ages of teenagers all the way up to the mature adults. And it's scary because everybody comes from all walks of life. And when you actually investigate and dig into what exactly is going on, it's exactly from what Courtney said. It's the occasional to getting hooked on prescription drugs, and once you reach that tolerance of prescription drugs, you're going on to the next step. And the next step will lead you to the next step, eventually heroin, and eventually it's going to kill you. There's no other explanation. It's going to lead you to death. The laws in Illinois have changed where, as Chad was talking about the Good Samaritan law, we had 2 overdoses that originated in Mountain County. One was unceremoniously dumped at Sparta Hospital. Had these people known that they could have picked up 911 and called, we could have maybe saved your life there. And just more recently, we had a couple other deaths that originated in Monroe County. EMS ran them over to St. Louis, so that doesn't even run into my statistics. When I check with EMS, we're running about 30 to 40 calls a year of overdoses. That's way too high, folks.
Yep.
There should be 0. So part of this program is to educate not only the teachers, but eventually we want to get to the parents, working with some people to put together some very stark naked video, which we'll have to get approved before we work on further, to go again to the teachers and the parents, and then eventually the children, the kids. And even junior high, as Courtney said, she started when she was 12, dabbling in it, experimenting. And it's the experimental, some can go out of it, and others get more into it. I want to leave you with Mr. and Mrs. Duran. Chris and Billy lost their son a year ago to overdose. And if you just wanted to say
I just wanted to say something real quick. This is my son Brandon. Like Vicki said, November 19th, I will have been without my son for a year. My son passed away in St. Louis. There's kiss marks all over there for my little granddaughter. We'll ask her where her bubby is, and she'll go up there and kiss Brandon's picture and hug his picture. Brandon passed away in St. Louis in a motel. At first, my quest was over in St. Louis, of course, because Brandon passed in St. Louis. He was basically left to die in a hotel. Had Missouri maybe had the 911 Good Samaritan law, maybe Brandon's life could have been saved. I will never know. I just felt like since Brandon passed away in the beginning that my quest was in St. Louis, so I started doing speaking over there and doing heroin rallies and stuff. And you know, after that I realized, you know what, we already know that St. Louis has a problem. Illinois is where the awareness needs to be raised. My son went to Redbud grade school, elementary school, went to Beck, Redbud High School and Beck. All my kids did. I called this, you guys, when nobody would listen to me, when my son passed away. I told people 6 months ago, it's going to start coming. There's a map, a grid map. It's moving further south. I was trying to tell people in our area, denial. I got the door slammed in my face, trying to let people know that this is going to come. Then I hear about 5 overdoses in Waterloo. I had an article in the newspaper a couple months ago. I had 2 people call me from Freeburg, a mother and a father who lost 1 daughter, 1 son, was not in the paper. 2 from New Athens. We had 1 in Ellis Grove, and I'm talking within the past 8 months, the ones in Waterloo. So this is a problem. The only reason why I'm here is I want to raise awareness. I do not want anybody to go through what my family has gone through. We are your normal, average, middle-class family. I didn't have what a lot of people have with an addict. I wasn't really aware of Brandon's drug use. He never stole anything from me. Brandon was never disrespectful to me. I didn't have to go to pawn shops and retrieve my family heirlooms. I don't know if I overlooked it, like you guys are saying, you know, what's the signs? I did not know. I ended up knowing after a while, and my memory, and me and my husband go back and forth on this, but I've lost a lot of my memories since Brandon passed away. But I didn't have, like I said, Brandon was never disrespectful or anything to me like that at all. I have spoken at a couple schools. Our U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Illinois, he is Randolph County, Madison County, St. Clair County, Mr. Stephen Wigington. On November 2nd, we spoke at DeCoyne High School, 400 students, and we spoke at Pickneyville High School that day too. Very, very positive response. My personal opinion is, I feel high school, we need to get these kids in middle school. To me, it's about prevention. I don't want them to go there. I want to scare the hell out of them before. They need to see this, they need to hear this, they need to see what it does to families, and I'm not as together as Courtney and Chad because I've had a really bad month. All I wanted to say was just, there are risk factors, and they can be detected as early as, middle school and stuff. You just need to be aware of them. You just need to watch the kids. Aggressive behavior, lack of self-control, maybe a difficult temperament, poor classroom skills, academic failure, association, with another drug-abusing peer, something like that. But as teachers, you guys see our kids sometimes more than we see our kids. So I just want you guys to be aware of that, the highest risk actually for drug abuse among adolescents is when they advance from elementary school to middle school. They're experiencing new academic and social situations, such as learning to get along with a wider group of kids. This is a stage that is most likely where a child will encounter drugs for the first time, to fit in, all of that stuff. I don't even know what I was saying this morning. I was so out of it. Just because you have kids that you think may be at risk, that doesn't necessarily mean because you do notice these things, that they will be. As educators, you just, can help by addressing the aggressive behavior, poor concentration, and stuff like that. These kids need to be told, and they need to be taught and watch what drugs do to the human body, both short-term, long-term. They need to see what it has done to families. It's critical that we get these kids, you guys, as early as adolescent, teach them about prevention. We need to find and provide, and I think we're doing good by what we're doing. I think this is the appropriate way to go about it. And just work on the challenges of preventing drug abuse among our adolescent children. But that's just all I want to do. I don't want credit for what I've done. I don't want anything. I just want to raise awareness. I want people to quit being in denial because it's pissing me off. And then I'm really in favor, like I said, Missouri, I agree with the 911 Good Samaritan. I made this flyer up with my son's picture on it, and I passed them out in Missouri. We've got to get the 911 Good Samaritan law going over there. On the top of it, it says, if you knew that this boy was going to die, would you try and save him? Sadly, my son Brandon was caught up in a world of drugs, and he lost his life at the young age of 22. He thought he was with friends, but sadly he wasn't. Well, it's too late to save him. You can save others like him. My message is simple. If you know someone that uses drugs, support them and don't turn away. It does not always mean that this person is bad. Plain and simple, please call for help if someone is in need of medical attention due to an overdose. You could be the person to give someone a second chance of life rather than a tragic ending. Please call for help. So, I just want you guys to know, it's just, the stigma, like everyone's trying to tell you, the junkie in the alley. It's not like that anymore. And I just got one more thing to leave you with. Just had a very stressful couple weeks. My son Brandon's, and I hope you don't mind Amber, childhood girlfriend. This is Amber. She is going to treatment tomorrow in Quincy at 1:30. We have to have her there. She's been with me for 2 weeks. She is 19 days clean today. So she's been staying with us, and tomorrow's the big day, and she's really nervous, but she's gonna make it. She's gonna make it.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, thank you guys so much.
I'll go ahead and talk to DE agent and see if I can get some more information on what the actual names are, the street names, and forward that to you if I get your email address after I'm done. Also, we do have a program in Columbia and Waterloo where you can get drugs out of the medicine campus, the ones that aren't being used anymore. You can take them right to the Waterloo PD. We've got a little mailbox in the lobby which is open 24 hours. All you do is just bag it and drop it. Columbia PD is the same way, just bag it and drop it. Whiteman's Pharmacy is the other place during their normal operational hours. And one of the things that Courtney did touch on is that the expense of these rehabs, it is amazing how expensive this does cost. And I do know families that are going through the rehabs, and it's really, I mean, savings are being gone through, 401ks, you name it, that's what they're using. But it's still a step in the right direction to try to get these kids and the users into the proper programs and hopefully keep them sober and productive citizens from there. So, yes, Ms. Clement?
Along the lines of the prescription drugs that are in your own medicine cabinets and holidays, are a good time to have a conversation with your elderly parents, and anywhere that your children will go for childcare, have a conversation with the police to have their medicine cabinets, and expose them when it's expired, make sure that other medicines are not available to children. Because that's the easiest place for us to have an immediate impact, is to just cut off those readily available prescription drugs that are just in our homes. And it's really handy to walk into the police department. You just walk in, and it really is just mailbox. You just dump your stuff off. You don't talk to anybody. You don't have to say, I'm bringing it here. You walk in and you put your stuff that's out of date or that isn't being used in there, and then you don't have to worry about somebody using it.
The last pickup we just did with the DEA and out of Waterloo, I believe they said we had over 400 pounds. Now we're talking pills, right? 400 pounds. And then the DEA take it and then they incinerate it, so it's never back in circulation. Just for your knowledge, the law enforcement agencies are not just idly sitting around on these drug overdoses, especially in Monroe County. The one overdose that originated in Monroe County, the dealer was caught. He is incarcerated, awaiting trial. So they are doing the investigation work of trying to get these dealers. It's just that it's so in depth and rampant. It's just amazing. But I am here to tell you, and that's why one of the reasons trying to get to the teachers in all of our community schools is to be more aware of what's going down, because it is here in our backyard. So, any other questions? If you do, Kelly Lurch has my email. I'll get it to the junior high principal. Jen Beckler has my email, and we'll be back in touch once we get everything together, and hopefully we'll get it to the students, and if it saves one kid.
It was very positive at the schools at DeCoyne and Pickneyville.
Okay.
And I just want to share one thing, because I'm so proud of this. After DeCoyne, this little boy walked up to me, and he was crying. And he handed me this, and it's got his name. He must have made it in art class. And he said, I want you to have this. He said, because when you look at it, I want you to think that your son made that for you, since he won't ever be around to make you anything again. So every time you look at that, just think that your son made that for you. And he had tears rolling. And I was like, oh, and I don't even know what it is, but I don't know. But I just